So, I guess just ignore that really immature introduction because actually this video is quite serious. We're reviewing r/letsnotmeet. In the subreddit, there's real, true stories about real encounters that these people have had, and again, I've been given permission to respectfully review these stories. So, welcome to the subreddit that I'd rather not meet again. Hopefully this is the right place for this. A few years ago, when I was still in school in rural Pennsylvania, I had a tendency to attract an assortment of odd people simply because I was genuine and nice to everyone I'd met. This one kid, Sam, was new to the school at the time and shared a few classes with me. He was eccentric and often had difficulty completing his schoolwork, but was generally received well by everyone else. It was when I volunteered to be his partner in a foods and nutrition class when I began to notice some troubling behaviour from Sam. We were assigned to make a simple batch of blueberry muffins, nothing too strenuous. As I was prepping the oven, Sam casually told me how he fantasized about putting his pet puppy into his oven at home and promptly showed me pictures of the animal. I brushed it off and continued with the task. Over the next few weeks, Sam would send me over school email various images of gore things, various images of gore. I thought it said penetrating. No, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, it's still bad. Things pertaining to Adolf Hitler or Nazism, school shootings, and various religious images pertaining to Allah. I wouldn't reply to these emails, nor would I acknowledge to him that I had received these images. But it's also important to note that I never alerted anyone about this behaviour either, as I would have felt bad for reporting on him and thus getting him into trouble. To be fair, it's quite mature to not even comment on these emails to him. I feel like I'd be like, yo, why'd you send me that? It's quite it's smart not to reply. I then tried to ignore him and avoid him as much as possible, hoping Sam would leave me alone. But I wasn't able to avoid him entirely, and many of our conversations were one-sided, with him rambling about mustard gas and setting small fires in his backyard. And then one day, out of the blue, he asked me in person if I would like to come and meet him at a local park behind an elementary school. Me being the anxious person that I am, unable to say no, I accepted his offer and we agreed to meet up at the next day after school. The next day, however, Sam was absent from school. No emails were sent to me, none of my other friends knew where he was, so I simply pushed it from my mind and carried on with my day. Well, school ended and I promptly walked into the park. It was virtually empty as it had just recently rained and the sky was still overcast. I head to our meetup point, which was a section of forest flanked by bamboo, which all sat next to a fairly big creek. On the adjacent side of the creek was a sprawling field of corn. I struggle reading, and I chose this. Anyway, with a home far in the distance. This will be important later. Okay. Hopefully I didn't ruin anyone's immersion. There's a home opposite, in the distance from this sprawling field of corn. I waited for roughly 10 minutes according to my watch, and just as I was about to walk home, thinking he was going to be a no-show, I hear a very distant thwack, like something was actively hacking down the bamboo. I turn towards the sound and shoot into bruh, she does not shoot. I turn into the ground I mean, oh, uh. I turn towards the sound and shout into the bamboo, asking if it was Sam making that noise. That was when he charged at me with this huge ass machete, screaming Allah Akbar at the top of his lungs. His face wrapped in a black scarf, and it wasn't long before I'd noticed he wasn't alone. There was another kid with him, someone obviously longer, someone obviously younger than both of us. I did not know him. As soon as Sam had cleared his way through the bamboo and wood, he ran right at me, wildly swinging. I got really angry and yelled at him to stop, but he wouldn't listen. He caught me across the stomach, but thankfully he only tore through my shirt and left a pink line of irritated skin. Oh my god, that's bad. I did the only thing that I knew I could do to get away from him, knowing that if I chose to run up the hill and to the end of elementary school, he would surely catch up. So I dove into the creek and bounded or half swam my way awkwardly to the other side. Sam tried to follow suit, but his shoes sunk into the creek mud on the bank, briefly hindering him. That was one of the last times I had seen him in person. Oh, well, good. I scrambled up the other side, clawing my way through exposed tree roots, earth, and rock, and tore my way through the cornfields. I was terrified for my life at this point. So many red flags I had ignored, hoping he would leave me alone, and I thought that I was surely going to be seriously maimed or killed by this kid. I kept running until I hit a back road, and from there I ran until I found that house I mentioned previously. I banged on the door, jammed my fingers into the doorbell, etc. Eventually, an older gentleman opened the door, and immediately I told him to call the police and that I was being chased. He ushered me in at once and promptly called the police. They searched the park and found the discarded black cloth that was wrapped around Sam's head. They found the boy he was with a little ways down the road. It was his younger brother. From there, they were able to find Sam at a friend's house, and everything else is a bit murky. Not sure what happened to Sam. All I know is that he isn't in school anymore, and everyone seems to have forgotten about him. But that fear I had felt, it was nothing I'd ever experienced before. It was so raw, but it kept me running until I found someone. It left me very shaken and wary. A lesson learned, and guys, please don't ignore red flags. Don't ignore gut feelings like I did. God, I hope I never run into Sam again. Jeez, it is scary because there's little kids that do things like that, like racist jokes, go a bit too far with their actions, and it's very scary if they're like, I think she mentioned that he was very like unique, so it's difficult, probably more so with them sort of people. So he was new as well, so he was probably a loner. He was just expressing himself, but in a really bad way. You kind of feel bad for him. That must have been so scary. As a little kid too, just trying to be nice and trust in this boy that you've just tried to be nice with. Well, I'm gonna leave it there with this video. I know it's only one story, but I thought to keep it quick, I'll do part 2s, 3s, 4s on this subreddit because I will be getting more permission, hopefully, from people. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.